This is a guitar tutorial for Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. It starts with an E minor chord, which is an excellent chord to learn for beginners. That's how you play an E minor chord. You're going to use your ring finger and your middle finger to slam down on the second fret of the A and the second fret of the D. So that is the first chord of Nothing Else Matters. However, it's kind of a picking pattern at the beginning. It's and believe it or not, you can actually play that without your left hand. It's one of the few songs out there that you can actually play the opening chord without doing it. Freaks by who is that? Surf Course? Okay, maybe next time. I've never heard that song, but I'll have to look it up. Thanks for chatting. We're going to go ahead and learn the verse of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters real quick here. Starts with an E minor. So close, no matter how far. So it's E minor, couldn't be much more from the heart. The next two chords are D major, and that's going to be an index finger on the second fret of the G, ring finger on the third fret of the B, and then middle finger on the second fret of the E. Creates a nice little beautiful major sound like that. Hello from France. Hey, good to see you. The third chord in this verse is C major. That's going to be your ring finger on the third fret of the A, your middle finger on the second fret of the D, and then your index finger is going to go on the first fret of the B string, or of the C, yeah, of the B string right there. And that's going to be the third chord that's going to be in the actual sequence for Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. Could you soon play Wonderwall? Yeah, we could probably do Wonderwall after we're done doing all these lessons. I think I might have time for that. Stick around. So here's the verse for Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. E minor, so close, no matter how far. D, C. Couldn't be much more from the heart. It keeps doing that. Who we are, and then here's the new sequence, G, and nothing else matters. So what are those two chords that we throw in at the end of the verse? That's a G chord, and nothing else matters, to a B7, back to the E minor. Now, a G chord is one of the few chords that uses all four fingers, actually, and you're going to put your middle finger on the third fret of the E string. That's 1, 2, 3, and then your index finger goes on the second fret of the A string. Your ring finger and your pinky are tucked right there at the bottom of the 6 strings on B and E third fret, 1, 2, 3, and that forms your G chord, just like that. Then there's B7, and nothing else matters. That's going to be your middle finger on the second fret of the A, index on the first fret of the D, and then you're going to tuck your ring finger underneath all of that onto the second fret of the G, right there. Then your pinky goes on the second fret of the high E string. So it forms this chord. That's B7 right there. And nothing else matters. So I'll play you the verse and then we'll move on to the chorus, okay? The verse to Metallica's Nothing Else Matters starts with an E minor. So close, no matter how far. D, C. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Same thing. Forever trusting who we are. And then G, and nothing else matters. B7, and then matters. So that's what you're going to do for the verse of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. But then we're going to move into the second part of this, which is never cared for what they do. It's D. Actually, it's C, A, D. never cared for what they do. So it's going to be a C chord to start that chorus off, and then an A chord, and then a D chord. And it's still in that same waltz. Never cared. Actually, it goes C, A, D. Never cared for what they do. Never cared for what they know. But I know. So there's really only two sections of this song. It's just a verse and a chorus when it comes to these different chord progressions. But that intro is a riff where it's basically E minor. And there's a little second guitar that's playing on top of that. But we're not going to go into all that. We're just learning the chords for this song, Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. All right, let's review. The verse is E minor. So close, no matter how far, D, C. Couldn't be much more from the heart, D, then C. But at the very tail end, it goes to G, and nothing else matters. That's G, B7, and then E minor. Then the chorus is C, A, D. Never cared for what they do. Never cared for what they know. But I know. Back to the E minor. So your chorus is C, A, and D major. And the way I play A is just with one finger like this. A lot of people will do it with 3 fingers. As you can see, you put your 3 fingers on the 2nd fret of the D string, G string, and B string. I just layer one finger across these 3 strings. It makes most sense for me when I'm moving around on guitar. I also think I saw Kurt Cobain do it that way a long time ago in some video. And I was like, well, that's how Kurt Cobain's playing his A chord when he's doing, rape me, rape me again. So because he was doing that just with one finger, I figured, what the hell, let's just play A like Kurt does it. So anyways, that's how you do Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. If you're enjoying this tutorial, we go live about 2 or 3 times a week, so please do subscribe. It costs you nothing. Let's say hi real quick. Hey, Raphael, were you able to see my request to teach Tina Turner the best? I did see that request, yeah. Maybe next time. This time around, we're just starting off with some, 90s hits, since that's kind of my thing. But I am going to be incorporating requests at some point, Raphael, so stick in there. Yuri, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you for showing up. Let me know how long y'all have been playing guitar, and if you have any requests of what songs you want to learn next, because I'd really love to hear from you. We're going to do Champagne Supernova next, and we'll learn all the chords for this. This one's pretty fun because you get to use an A sus2 chord. And what is an A sus2 chord? Let's find out. A sus2 starts with these notes. So, this is Champagne Supernova by Oasis. It starts with A sus2, which is on the 2nd fret of the D and the 2nd fret of the G. And you can use these 2 fingers to place them onto the guitar and play the bottom 5 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? So, what are we doing there? We're using A sus2 as our core chord for this song. And then I'm using my pinky for the next chord, which is A sus2 with a G in the bass. It's G over A sus2. And I'm just holding down the 3rd fret of the E string. creates that chord. How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Third to last chord is, that's an F sharp in the bass of A sus2, and I've switched over to putting my middle finger on the second fret of the E string, and I've got my ring finger on the second fret of the D, and I've got my pinky right here on the second fret of the G. And that creates an A sus2 chord. Now, I'm trying to get positioned here so you can see a little bit better. A sus2 is the third chord in the sequence. And then finally E. An E major is just how we learned it, with the ring finger on the second fret of D, middle finger on the second fret of the A, and then an index finger right here, first fret of the G. So this is the verse and the chorus. This is what's so neat about this song, is that it's using the same 4 chords to play the verse, which is, how many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? And then the big chorus, someday you will find me caught beneath a landslide in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find... So it's doing the same 4 chords for that big giant chorus they do. So there's 2 sections, they're the same 4 chords, and then there's a little bridge where they go to the G chord. 'Cause people believe that they're gonna get away for the summer. So that's just a G chord that they go to for this bridge part. But you and I, we live and die, the world's spinning round, we don't know why. So that's where it goes up to D. And D is going to be the same way we always play it. Index finger, second fret of the G. Ring finger, third fret of the B. Middle finger, second fret of the E. Live and die, the world spin around, we don't know why. Why? Back to the A sus2 chord, which descends to the G over A sus2, and then F sharp over A sus2, and then E minor, E major at the very, very tail end of that. And those are the 2 main sections. There is a really cool riff that I want to show you real quick, though. So when you're doing that little part in the middle section of the song where there's a guitar riff, actually, you're going to put your 4th finger on the 9th fret of the D and play it and then bend it up. So it's like... So you're just using the 9th fret and the 7th fret of these top 3 strings of D, A, and E to play the riff from Champagne Supernova. 340 Ice Teller. 314 CE Telly. Oh no, yeah, this is the you're talking about my guitar right now. This is the Taylor 314 CE. I got it for Christmas last year. Thank you for noticing. Nice call out. Here's the riff from Champagne Supernova. 9 7 9 7 9, and then go down to the E string. 7 9 7 9 7 9 7. Then start it over. And then at the very end, kind of comes up to the 11th, and then hits the 9th fret of the G string. And that's going to be played on top of our normal chords. So that's how you play all the sections of Champagne Supernova. Thank you very much for watching that song. We're moving on to a Green Day song next, but I do want to say hello to some folks in the chat here. Trumper Kamala, good Lord, what year is it? Where were you when you were getting high? Yeah, Jinx, that's one of my favorite lines of any song ever, honestly. It's pretty fun. Hey, Oscar, you're such a nice guy. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. It's nice to see people jumping into the chat saying hello, so thank you for encouraging me. It's very encouraging to see there's actually people out there. And Kendall, if you want to go talk about Trump or Kamala, you've got plenty of options out there. If you want to learn Boulevard of Broken Dreams, that's what we're about to do. Boulevard of Broken Dreams has a capo on the first fret. By the way, we're not going to do that, though, today. We're just going to be learning the chords, okay? Hi, hit the like and sub button. Yeah, don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button, because that really helps out when it comes to getting the live stream in front of more people. So, also, we go live about, I go live 2 or 3 times a week. So, do you play bass? Yeah, I play bass. I've actually really enjoyed playing bass with a student that I have who's learning to play drums. And my favorite thing to do is play Sweet Emotion on bass. Is this Creep by Radiohead or STP? It's going to be Creep by Radiohead. I probably should have put that in there, huh? It's not Creep by TLC. It's not Creep by Stone Temple Pilots. It's not Creep by TLC. It's not Creep by STP. It's Creep by Radiohead. Music is the best. Yeah, music is the best. I agree. All right, let's get started on Boulevard of Broken Dreams. This song uses a capo on the first fret. We're not going to do that, but I'm going to show you the chords that you can use to play this song, basically from front to back. It starts with E minor, goes to a G, goes to a D, and goes to A. That sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Because today was gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. Indeed, your ears don't deceive you. That is the same chord progression as Wonderwall from Oasis. However, Green Day puts a capo on the first fret, Oasis puts a capo on the second fret for their version, but they are using the same chords, which is E minor. That's middle finger and fourth finger on the second fret of the A and the D, respectively. Then it goes to G. That's your middle finger on the third fret of the E, index finger on the second fret of the A, and then these two at the very bottom. Third fret of the B, third fret of the E. Then you go over to D, and then you play A. I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me, and I walk alone. Let me give a little reverb to that whistle. So, that's how we do the verse. Now I'm going to show you the chorus, which is going to be 4 different chords. C, and that's going to be a ring finger on the third fret of the A string, middle finger on the second fret of the D string, index finger on the first fret of the B string. My shadow's the only one that walks beside me. So it's C to G. My shallow heart's the only thing that's beating. C, G, D, and then E minor. But there's a little, what I call it, a coda chord at the end of this chorus. Now, this is going to be pretty sweet because it uses a B7, which we learned in the Metallica song we learned earlier today on this live stream. So, sometimes I wish someone out there will find me. Till then I walk alone. There's that B7. till then I walk alone. Back into the verse. So, those are the two sections of the song. There's a verse and then there's a chorus. At the very tail end, though, there's going to be a chord progression that you should know if you're going to be playing this song from front to back. C, D, and then... So, this is kind of a tricky one because the way they record this, probably, is they actually tuned the guitar back to standard, and that's what gives them this low D sharp note. So it starts with E minor, C, D, A over C sharp. Actually, no, it's C sharp over A, and then it goes down to G, and then to D sharp. That's the final coda to Boulevard of Broken Dreams. They end with an epic guitar riff. Not unlike Sweet Emotion, which is... And then the very end of that song is just... They just give it one last final big riff. And that's what Boulevard of Broken Dreams does. So... Thank you so much for watching that one. How y'all doing? Since you mentioned TLC, teach the intro of No Scrubs. How does No Scrubs go? I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can get no love from me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can get no love from me. I don't want no scrub. I don't even know what the chords are for that, but that's how I would play it, is probably an F. We're going to move on to the next one. Thank you for the suggestion, though, Raphael. I appreciate it. We're going to move on to Creep by Radiohead. Creep by Radiohead has 4 chords in the entire song, which is nice and easy for a guitar player who's just starting out. You're going to put your index finger on the 3rd fret of the E and your ring finger on the 5th fret of the A. That's a normal power chord that if you can learn that, you can learn tons and tons of other songs. But for Creep, the whole thing is actually a G chord with a pinky on the 5th fret of the D, and then your middle finger goes on the 4th fret of the G, right there. So our first chord is, when you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. Now, did you see what I did there? I actually went to what's called a G suspended chord, and what I did was I essentially took my ring finger and layered it across the 5th fret of the A, the D, and the G. And I still had this here. That is a G suspended chord, or you could call it, I think some people call it G sus4. When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. So the first 2 chords are G and then G suspended. Then you bring it up to the 7th fret. You take that exact same chord and bring it up to 7. You're just like an angel. So did you see what I did there? It's the same thing that I did when I was down in G. I just added that suspended chord. Now we're doing a B suspended chord to learn Creep by Radiohead. When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Here we go. Now we're up on the 8th fret of the E string. Same chord format. That same power chord is just moving up and up slowly up the guitar neck like that. You skin makes me cry. Now what is that? That is a C minor chord. So the last few chords of this sequence are going to be this 8th fret power chord, and then the suspended, and then back to the power chord, and then a C minor chord, because we're going to actually bar all 6 strings on the 8th fret, and we're going to keep our ring finger on the 10th of the A string, and our pinky is going to remain on the 10th of the D string. So now we have a C minor chord to finish everything off with this sequence. Let's start from the beginning and show you exactly how many chords are in this. It's basically 4, but because of those suspended chords, it might be more like 7 chords in this. So, when you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. You flow like a feather. Is that the Despacito intro? Yeah, probably sounds similar to that. Is that the Justin Bieber song? There's a lot of similarities in music like that. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who think that Stay With Me by Sam Smith, I think it is, sounds like Tom Petty. I Won't Back Down. Like, there's a lot of songs that sound strikingly similar. And Creep is no, stranger to that. So let's do one more review, and then we'll move on to the last song of the day, which is Wish You Were Here. This is Creep, though. It starts with the G, then it goes to G suspended, and then back to G. It goes to the 7th fret, that same exact chord progression, or chord format. 7th fret, and then B suspended, back to the B. Then it moves up to the 8th fret, then it hits that suspended. That's a C suspended chord, or C sus4, and then back to the C major, and then the one that's going to be probably hardest for any beginners out there, a 7th fret bar, but you got to bring up your ring finger and your pinky, and you create this chord. That's a C minor chord on the 8th fret of the E string. So, that's how you play Creep by Radiohead. Please do like and subscribe, everybody. We are doing live streams about 2 or 3 times a week. I keep saying we as in me. I'm doing live streams 2 or 3 times a week, and I'll be chopping up the video and posting the rest of it on my YouTube and my TikTok. But it is nice to have people subscribe so that you can actually jump into these live streams whenever they happen. Raphael, during the part where the guitarist presses and releases the distortion pedal, is there any trick we can do on the acoustic guitar to create that weight and pressing sound? Yeah, like, honestly, there's a lot of distortion in this song, especially the chorus, because he's actually turning on the distortion. It makes a big, loud whee! You can hear the noise, and he's giving it just a that little chunka right before the chorus, and all he's doing is, like, resting his hand on the strings like that, and that's kind of giving it that chunka in the distortion version. What you could do on acoustic guitar is actually switch to the G open chord for that, and you could do, see how I'm actually putting my ring finger on the 3rd fret? So for your chorus in Creep, you don't have to stay in that power chord moment. You could actually open it up by putting your ring finger on the 3rd fret and your pinky on the 3rd fret of this high E string, which creates a G major chord, and you could just come right out of the verse right into, but I'm a creep. And that's a way to do a suspended chord, is put your index finger on the 1st fret of the B string. I'm a weirdo. So that's one way to do that, Raphael, is if you wanted to give it some more weight on acoustic guitar, play the open G version of it. And that might help you out there. All right, y'all. Teach guitar from basic. I don't know what you're trying to ask. Oh, you're probably trying to tell me to maybe slow down, or maybe you're saying maybe I should be starting from scratch when it comes to teaching. I'll do my best, man. Thanks very much for jumping in and chatting with me. We're going to do one more song, okay, y'all? This next song is Wish You Were Here. All right. So, in order to play Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, we start out with a middle finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. And yeah, I'll teach like a beginner version of this song for you, since I can tell there's some beginners who are in the chat. So, oh, you just bought an acoustic guitar. Awesome. A great first song to learn is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, which I'm going to teach you. So there's a riff that starts with the 3rd fret of the E string, and then it's A, an open string, and what you're going to do is you're going to actually do what's called a hammer-on. You're going to go... So there's a hammer-on in this riff, and what I'm doing is I'm slamming my finger onto the 2nd fret of the A string after I play the A. So here's a hammer-on. See what I'm doing there? I'm not even plucking it with my right hand. I'm just letting my finger actually make the 2nd note by slamming it like that. And that's the hammer-on that you're going to use to actually play the first riff of Wish You Were Here. And then you're going to put your index finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. And don't forget, you're going to put your ring finger and your pinky on the 3rd fret of the E string. So this is what it's going to sound like. That's the opening sequence of the riff, is 3 hammer-on, open D, and then 2nd fret of the D string. And that lands on this chord, basically, which is an E minor 7 chord. And you're going to strum that for a bit. And then you're going to play the 2nd fret of the D, which is 2nd fret of the D, open G, 2nd fret of the D, open D. That's the second half of this. So the first half is... And then... Dun, 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 dun. And it's the same thing. You keep your ring finger and your pinky on the same spot. This riff is basically anchored around those fingers, this one and your pinky being right here on the 3rd fret of the E string and the 3rd fret of the B string. So keep those there the whole time, and that way you'll be able to cycle through. Let me do that again. And then, towards the end of the sequence, nice, thanks for subscribing, Pradeep, I appreciate it. The very tail end of this riff, you're here, and you're actually going to go 2nd fret of the D, open D, 2nd fret of the A, open A, and that's going to give you a new chord, which is an A sus 4/7 chord. A suspended add 7 chord. That's what that should be, I think. But that's what's going to happen at the end of this whole riff. Da, 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 da. That's just 2 open on D and then 2 open on A. And then you form this A suspended 7 chord. It's index finger on the 2nd fret of the D, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G, 4th finger's gonna, or actually ring finger's gonna go on the 3rd fret of the B, and then you got a pinky there at the very bottom there, and that creates A, sus 4/7. Then it goes right back into G. Creep strum pattern for acoustic, close to original. Thank you, Vicky. Yeah, I think the strumming pattern is for Creep is probably pretty similar to the original. I'm going to finish up with the chords to Wish You Were Here, since we just did the riff, okay? So the chords for Wish You Were Here are G, and then we go into the verse by doing a C chord. So you think you can tell, that's a D major chord, heaven from hell. Then we go to A minor. A minor is built around your index finger being on the first fret of the B, and then your middle finger goes on the second fret of the D string. Your ring finger goes right underneath that. So here's what an A minor looks like, as you can see. And it's the third chord in the sequence of Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. So let's do it. So you think you can tell heaven from hell, A minor, blue skies from pain, back to the G. Can you tell a green field? Then we go up to the D major, from a cold steel rail. Then we're in A minor, a smile from a veil, up to the C chord, and then do you think you can tell? So it's going to use that cycle over and over again. D major, A minor, C, and then G. And then it's going to go into that same opening riff. And if you had somebody who was playing guitar with you and wanted to do the solo, the way to do that is you put your middle finger on the second fret and you go, that's the opening of that solo, is middle finger on the second fret of the G, slide up to 4, use your index to play the third fret of the B, and then you can do a pull-off from the 5th fret of the E. This is where we're getting into like advanced guitar, so we're going to just do this for 1 second and then go back to the chords. And then the cool part of this is the part where he does the double slide. He's got his index finger on the 3rd fret of the B and the 3rd fret of the E, and he does this. So what's happening there? It's a slide up from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret, and then a slide back down. So and then you're going to have your index finger on the G string on the 2nd fret, middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B string, and you're going to slide that up like this. So it's kind of like, it's kind of a cool little sequence there that David Gilmour does for Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. But we won't get too into that. We're going to show you the chords for this chorus here, because after that guitar solo, they're just going to linger on G for a little bit. And then, here comes the chorus. It's C. How I wish you were here. Goes to the D major. We're just two lost souls living in a fishbowl. That's A minor. Year after year. That's the G chord. And then it just repeats that. Running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fear. I wish you were here. So that is how you play Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Sound off in the chat what songs we should learn next time. I know that we have a vote for Tina Turner's Simply the Best, so I am going to run a poll on my YouTube channel later on today with the songs that people are recommending. We've got a recommendation for The Best by Tina Turner, Serve the Servants by Nirvana, and I'm looking at also from last time I was live, Nutshell. Are there any other ones that folks want to learn out there? I see there's some people watching, so feel free to put that in the chat. I actually do have a tutorial for Nutshell that is does pretty good on YouTube because it's just the chord progression. Incubus songs. Any specific song? I think you said "Pardon Me" last time, right, Raphael? Here's what I can do: is put Incubus songs in my little list here. Any specific Incubus songs that you want to play? Because I think the one that I know is "Pardon Me." Pardon me while I buzz. So let me clear the queue here, since there's people who are coming in who probably think, wait, are we going to learn those songs? And it's like, nope, we already did. Now we're kind of just chatting about what to learn next. So if you're just joining and wondering what the hell's going on, we just learned 5 songs, and now we're talking about what we're going to learn next time I go live. So feel free to put something in the chat if you'd like to hear it. Dig, Oil and Water, Love Hurts, Talk Show on Mute. So, you know what's crazy? You're showing me how little I know about Incubus right now. Because I actually can't even think of what those songs sound like. Like, I don't know if those are old from, that album they had called Science, or I think they had an album called A Certain Shade of Green, too. Or those could be newer songs. I don't even know if they're newer songs from like the new Incubus stuff that's out there. So I think that if you could keep the Incubus recommendations coming, that would be helpful. I'm more familiar with stuff from like Morning View and Make Yourself. Like one of my favorite songs was I don't even remember what that song's called. I just remember learning it back in the day, but that's an Incubus song. And then Wish You Were Here. Yeah, that's a good one from Morning View. I dig my toes into the sand. The ocean looks like 1,000 diamonds. String a stole my new canopy. I'm going to put Wish You Were Here on the list here. Incubus, Wish You Were Here. Dun. Cool. I could definitely do that one. And that's a really good beginner guitar player song, too, because it's using A, an E major, and then it's using a B5 and a D5, too. But it also uses F sharp, too, which is good. I'll work on that one. I don't know the actual verse to that song, except... Yeah, I have to practice that one before I teach it. Yeah, keep the suggestions coming, though. Right now we've got about 4 suggestions. Tina Turner, Nirvana, Nutshell by Alice in Chains, and Incubus, Wish You Were Here. So I usually teach about 5 songs per live stream. What's another song that you all would like to hear? Sour Girl. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Sour Girl, STP. Good recommendation, Raphael. I appreciate that.
She turned away, what are you looking at? She was a sour girl the day that she met me. Hey, what are you looking at? What would you do?
I don't know. I have to revisit that one before we get that one on the list, but it seems like we've got 5 different songs that I can definitely poll our audience on in like some kind of community post later on. But keep them coming, y'all. Is there anything that anybody wants to learn like right now? Like I've got like another 10 minutes that I could probably throw something together. So what song would you like to hear, y'all? What song would you like to watch me play? And I'll give you a quick tutorial of it. Quiet crowd out there. That's all good. Sublime or No Doubt. Ooh, No Doubt. You know what? Let me bring up Don't Speak real quick, and I will do a bonus tutorial right now. Bonus. Don't Speak by, what are they called? No Doubt. This is a pretty advanced song, honestly, because of the way that the chords are put together. But yeah, this is a pretty cool song. Don't speak. Let me see if I can switch it though. Oh, it looks like they use a capo in the version that I'm looking at. But the way I like to play this one is like the hard way, which is F minor in the chorus. But let me transpose it real quick. Boom, boom. B minor. Don't speak. I know. Yeah. F minor. So it starts with you and me. We used to be together every day. A sharp, every day together, always. So it starts with this C minor. You and me, we used to be together. So that's G minor, and then F minor. Every day together, always. So there's about 4 chords in there, which is C minor. That's with an index finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, and then that's with a ring finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and a pinky on the 5th fret of the G string right there. But if you just did that, you'd have a C5 chord. We are doing a C minor chord, which means you got to put your middle finger on the 4th fret of the B string right there. That's what creates that minor feel. Like that.
You and me, we used to be together, every day together, always.
So C sharp minor, C minor goes to this G minor. And minor chords, you know, that you're playing where your index is on the bass right here on the 1st fret, you're actually going to basically be barring the entire neck of the guitar to make this minor chord. And it's kind of hard on the hands, so it takes a lot of practice. You're going to be hurting after a lot of bar chord practice, basically. But that's the 2nd chord of this sequence.
You and me, we used to be together every day.
So that's an A sharp right there. And how that works is it's an index finger on the 1st fret of the A, and then you're going to layer your ring finger across these 3 strings. The 3rd fret of the D, the 3rd fret of the G, and the 3rd fret of the B string are all going to come together for that chord. And that's A sharp. So it's you and me, we used to be together every day together. Back to G minor. Always. Oof, that one's a real hand cruncher. So that is F minor. The lower you go on your guitar when it comes to doing bar chords, the harder it's going to be on your hand. A bar chord all the way up here is a little bit easier, probably because of just the way the guitar is built and just how easy it is to push the guitar strings up here compared to down here. When you do an F minor, you are basically pushing as hard as you can to get that going. That's the index finger layered across the 1st fret, and pinky and ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A and D string. So 1, 2, 3, yeah. Let me try it again. And you know what helps sometimes? Layering your middle finger on top of your index finger just for extra support. That's an F minor chord, which happens at the very tail end of the verse of No Doubt's Don't Speak. Always. It's also the first chord of the chorus to this song. So the chorus to this song is F minor, don't speak, and then A sharp, I know just what. Whoops. Oh, this is interesting. So we used an A sharp major earlier. We're using an A sharp minor now for this chorus. Don't speak, I know just what you're saying, so please stop explaining. Don't tell me 'cause it hurts. So, what are those chords? The chords are F minor, don't speak, and then A sharp minor. The way we set that up is we've got index finger on the 1st fret of the A string, and then we've got a ring finger on the 3rd fret of the D string. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then pinky's underneath that. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, pinky on the G string, 3rd fret. Here's the most important part of this chord, though, because it is a minor chord. Put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the B string, and that's going to give you A sharp minor. That's going to sound like this. And that's the 2nd chord of this chorus. Don't speak, I know just what you're saying. Now, what is that? That is a D sharp major chord. Holy crap. And it's basically a power chord on the 6th fret of the A string, and it also has that same ring finger bend that you're going to have to use because it's 6th fret of the A string, and then right here is the 8th fret of D, G, and B. You got to push it real hard to make D sharp major. Don't speak, F minor, I know just what you say. A sharp minor, saying D sharp major, and then we're gonna go down to C. C major. So please stop explaining. Back to the A sharp minor. Don't tell me 'cause. Back up to C chord, and then it hurts. That goes right back to the F minor. Don't speak, I know what you're thinking, and I don't need your reasons. Don't tell me 'cause it hurts. Don't speak, I know just what you're saying, so please stop explaining. Don't tell me 'cause it hurts. Good Lord, this song hurts my hand. That's how much this song is hurting me. Good Lord, it's like really hard to make it through that sequence of chords. So that's not really for beginners. That was just a request that I thought we could run through real quick before we say goodbye. Happy Easter. I will see you next time. Please like and subscribe this channel, like this live stream so it keeps getting pushed out to more people in the future. We are trying to reach 4,000 watch hours and become a YouTube partner because I love doing this, and it would be nice if it was a self-sustaining thing. So please subscribe. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.